Hi everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys spending the time to take out of your day to listen to me. I normally talk about Tyranny, that book that I was reading. I normally do my series on Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century from Timothy Snyder. However, this weekend I spent my entire weekend reading Brene Brown's book it's called Atlas of the Heart. I totally love that book because she is a social worker. I'm currently just about ready to graduate from social work myself, so a lot of it resonated with me, and interestingly enough, her book is based on a lot of psychology and emotions and understanding emotions and what it truly means to be human. So thinking right now that is so important to understand in our time right now in history. We are living history right now, and what it means to be human is something I think we should all think about. In relation to that, with psychology, the book on tyranny actually kind of coincides with that, because it likes to discuss how tyranny uses psychology and their tactics. So I just want to touch base with that. And keep in mind, this is a little bit personal because I think it's important to be vulnerable and have people understand what this is doing on a personal level to everybody. I can only speak from my experience, and that is what I plan on doing. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I am speaking on my own experiences. So let's get started on tyranny and with the book from Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart. And then these are all my words, my interpretation of the two. So in my opinion, modern day tyranny is actually terror management, meaning a crisis is manufactured to create fear. It can then be used to sell a sense of safety to the target group. This is done through psychological methods. If a power, aka politics or politicians, can seize a historical moment and sell you the sense of safety, it means they have you in the palm of their hands. They will sell you the answer to safety, and in our case, that answer comes by the name of Pfizer, Moderna. Shame and fear and the psychological weapons that are being used, those are the psychological weapons they're employing on us. So understanding these emotions is crucial so that we can make a calm and rational decision that are good. Like, we need to make sure our decisions are good and healthy for the whole of society. If we can understand our emotions, we can control our behavior. Instead of having a knee-jerk reaction and running towards that false sense of safety and security, our powers that be are now asking us to oust certain members of our society. Yeah, that's where we're at. So make no mistake, this is an ethical dilemma. They are asking us to carry out their dirty work in the name of moral righteousness. This is hijacking a lot of people's ability to think from an empathetic perspective. And without empathy, we're doomed. There's no two ways about it. We need empathy as human beings. So I guess, in the end, that turns into dehumanization. It is a form of dehumanization, what they're asking us to do. This is a violation of human rights. Dehumanizing is used in war crimes. It's used in genocides. When one puts their moral judgments above the needs of another human being, it labels the target group as lesser. And ultimately, it leads to the belief that the opposing group is evil. And what do we do with evil? People want to destroy evil, or what they think is evil. Dehumanizing always starts with language and labeling the supposed enemy. So if you're labeling something an enemy, down the road, that is accompanied with fearful images, so it reinforces that belief. Authoritarians can and do use media to get information out to their subjects. So this means they control what we see. It means they control what we don't see. Think about that. If they're controlling what we see and what we don't see, they're controlling our access to information. A classic tactic that the Nazis used, only they used the radio. So censorship becomes a tool to maintain that narrative. And guess what? Fact checkers are now our modern day book burners. This leads us to the topic of societal, institutional, and individual shame. Brene Brown is quoted as saying, "In the absence of love and belonging, there is always suffering." Asking someone to deny their inner truth in order to achieve belonging, that's not belonging at all. That's known as coercion. And that leads to resentment. Human beings are wired. We are neurologically wired for interconnectedness, not independence. And today I see a lot of that as being the ultimate goal. Like, it is so aspired to, like it's something that's admired and celebrated, yet you know what? It almost ends up, almost always ends up in loneliness. Because we are wired for interconnectedness and interdependence. That's human nature. It's never going to change. That's what we're meant for. So isolation is designed to hurt us. Make no mistake. We all have a need to be appreciated and a need to be needed. Society and our social relationships, they act like a mirror. And that's where we find our value as a human being. It's our reflection point. That's how we check back in on ourselves and make sure that we are where we want to be. And if we're accepted, then we accept ourselves. It's a sad nature. It's a sad truth of it. That's how human beings function and relate to each other, right? So if they act like a mirror, and that's where we find our worth as a human being, we all have a need to be appreciated and needed. Longing to be accepted for who we truly are. So when we choose to risk belonging, there has to be a good reason for that. For every behavior, there is a purpose. Sometimes it comes down to honoring ourselves because we can no longer self-sacrifice in order to fit in. The line has to be drawn at some point, and this is called honoring your higher self, or as some would call it, listening to your soul. Personally, I've been told that it's my choice to forego certain luxuries of society, as if the only thing I was missing out on in life was sitting at a restaurant and feeling sorry for myself because I couldn't go sit in at a movie theater. But the fact is, it runs much deeper than that. This judgment is coming from somebody who doesn't know my life story. And keep in mind, we all have a life story, and these stories make up who we are as a person today. But risking that belonging, it actually came at a really high price. It came with being forced into the outskirts of society. My opportunities for fair employment are gone. It affects my access to basic human needs, food, shelter. I'm having a hard time sleeping, everything. It has taken away my sense of safety, to be honest with you. My access to fair and equal health care. It has trickled down into the loss of friendships, intimacy, a sense of connection, and it takes away, mostly, my right to be the most that I can be. I'm a single mom of 4 children. I've had a broken back, pins and rods put in my back. I've had blood transfusions. I've been pregnant with twins, lost one twin. The other one survived. I had another son, born with a genetic syndrome, he will always have medical issues. He's even had heart surgery. He's got circulatory issues. The list goes on and on. We know the medical system inside and out because we've had to live it. It has been our experience. So my decision is based on I don't feel safe taking something that's still in a trial basis because we've already spent so much of our life in and out of the hospitals we just don't want anymore. And I don't even think I should have to validate that or justify that to anybody. This is private. It is nobody's business. But the fact that we are being ousted from society because of a personal choice based on life experience, that is valid, is absolutely disgusting. It is pathetic It is pathetic that we are being dehumanized for our own life choices that really don't affect anybody else. Honestly, they don't. You can tell yourself they do, but it does not affect you. I feel shamed. I feel dehumanized. I feel judged. I feel coerced. And this judgment is extremely unempathetic and something I would never do to another human being. Never. And the people that know me would tell you that. I am human, and I am not a virus. The shame and the humiliation are exactly what the powers that be were hoping for when they unleashed this terror war. Think back to before this. We were all friends. We were all contributing. We were all appreciated for who we were, and still are. What we had to offer and still have to offer has never changed. The divide and the coercion this fear has created is a breeding ground for mistrust, cognitive dissonance, and despair. And that is just as dangerous as any virus. When society gives the message that you no longer hold value through statements such as, you don't deserve access to health care, or even a job, or access to grocery stores now in certain provinces, it leads to feelings of being invisible. If someone can deny another person their rights to basic human needs, essential to survival, I have to ask myself, what kind of world are we living in? What kind of world are we allowing? This disconnection ends in isolation, and for some, suicidal ideation, which can actually grow into death. Is this the world we want our children to be growing up in? I don't. Is this a message we want to send to our beautiful people? Take responsibility for your role in this. Are we okay with these policies and these mandates created by people that don't even know us? Emotional pain can be so easy to ignore because it's invisible. The perfect weapon of modern day warfare, I would say. Do we want our children living this? Or worse yet, do we want our children learning this? Step outside of it for a moment. Step outside of the situation for a moment and ask yourself, how do you react to someone's pain and despair? How do you really react? How do you react to your own pain and despair? Are you comfortable causing pain in another person? Can you sit with your pain long enough to understand the emotions driving it? When society gives a message that you no longer hold value through statements such as you don't deserve health care, or you shouldn't be allowed to have a job or education, it does shut a person down. And as human beings, I don't believe we should be doing this to each other under any circumstances. We don't even do this to people in prison. They still get the right to food and shelter. This is unacceptable. So once you've stepped outside of everything and you've asked yourself if this is something you want to take part in, you have to understand we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to our fellow human beings. We are all mothers, fathers, children, brothers, sisters. We have commonalities that unite us, and it's how we interpret these that connect or divide us. Disconnection leads to pain and loneliness, the silent killers of hope, and I would say the birthplace of despair. So is this what living is? Society asserting its dominance at the command of a politician for some self-serving purpose? I can assure you, as can history, that power is often used to control and suppress individuals. But remember, individuals make up society together collectively. So if you break enough individuals, you will break society. Are you bringing hope to a dark time? Or are you trying to assert your dominance so you don't lose your social acceptance? or you don't have to confront the fear of death. Get in touch with your emotions and ask yourself the hard questions. It's easy to think that pushing our beliefs on others is the best interest of society, but asking someone to deny their reality is dismissive, and it's ultimately born out of selfishness that's rooted in fear. It all ends when we stand up and give each other mutual respect. We must honor the sacredness of each other on our individual journey. Respect the soul that is begging to be heard and understood. This brings validation, understanding, and connectedness. Stand in one another's pain and work together in a humanistic approach where we can all be heard. Dictation, coercion, dehumanization are not the answer. It's time we fact check the politics and cut the strings and break free from this. So remember, the truth is inside each and every one of us. It really is. You just have to sit quiet long enough to hear it. Make sure the symbols you display include your fellow citizens and don't exclude them.
We will not comply with the instinct.